Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Five Nights at Freddy's. I've never played the game. More coming at this, I guess, only coming at this as a movie. I knew people who were excited for this, who like horror movies. And I was curious what this was going to be because I had been hearing about this movie. Heard about the game forever, but I've been hearing about this movie being made for so long. I was like, well, finally we'll get to see. Actually, it was worth all the hype and stuff. I don't think this movie is really for me on a lot of levels, but I also don't think it's a particularly good or interesting really movie if you're not interested in the game, which is not to say necessarily a bad thing, but I don't think it is a transcendent piece of media. It'll make people, I think, who hadn't played the game want to. One thing I take from this film is this is a really good starter horror movie. It's the first horror movie that a lot of people will see, a lot of younger people will see, and it is a gateway film. In a very condescending way, it's baby's first horror movie, and there's actually nothing really wrong with that. In fact, that's actually a good thing for genres to be doing, is to get more new people and more people in. And that is actually very good for the horror genre in general, and you can tell Jason Blum produced this, probably knew what he was doing in that regard. This is a PG-13 film. There's not a lot of gore. It's not too scary. In my case, I don't think it's not scary at all. But for people who are not used to that world, this is their first one. And maybe they won't see another horror movie for a couple of years, but maybe they'll say, I want to see another one right now. This is not made for people who are older than 25, or just in general, people are seeing lots of horror movies. This probably doesn't feel that interesting, and in a sense, because of the hype and because of the concept, because of everything, it probably should be a lot better than it is. But the kind of doorway it's opening up for so many people kind of brings a level of positivity that I don't think the script or the movie or much of what's going on screen ever really deserve to have happen, but nonetheless is anyway, mostly because of the game and hype and stuff. Five Nights at Freddy's is about a guy played by Josh Hutcherson who is looking for a job to support him and his little sister. He has trouble holding on a job, and he eventually gets a job as a security guard at a sort of broken down Chuck E. Cheese sort of thing. He's there, and he mostly dreams about his brother who was kidnapped a long time ago when he was a kid, and he never found out what happened to him. But while he's not doing his job at this abandoned Chuck E. Cheese, the animatronics come to life, and he slowly realizes they're evil and decides to bring his sister, which is, I think, he doesn't seem like a great employee, to be honest, but hey, I got kids too, so I get it. But brings her to work. She becomes friends with the animatronic guys. He has to worry about what's going to happen, and it slowly gets weirder and crazier and creepier. I think one of the things I kept thinking about after watching this film is there was, I don't know her name, Bobby maybe. She's like this white girl, and she interviews people, and she interviewed the rapper Offset, and Offset was like, you kind of just don't have any spices. You just don't have any flavor. And that's basically what this is. This has no flavor whatsoever. I think it's directed very, I would say competently, but I wouldn't call it interesting or, I kept watching it going was Joe Dante busy? What the fuck is going on? Just get Joe Dante in here. What? There's nothing subversive. There's nothing kind of creepy. There's nothing that makes you think weird things. Nothing like that. It is so uninterestingly made. I almost think they tried to take out everything. It's like they edited out anything that would be weird at all, and that makes it fucking boring as hell. With all the liminal stuff and the abandoned building people and all this cool footage and interesting ways to shoot these things that are going on constantly as well. You look at a movie like this and you're like, oh cool, you know how to shoot a adequate episode of Goosebumps from the 90s. It just never it feels very sub TV movie level. I don't think the animatronics were scary at all. Most of the stuff with that felt like pretty pathetically trying to be scary. I didn't like that. The lack of gore in it made it super uninteresting, because it's like, okay, well, even in a horror element, like the reason you want to see this, you're just not going to show me. I'm not sure what you're doing to me here, but you're not helping. But I get that, like, this is not made for those kind of people. This is not made to, be a good movie. This is not made to be for people who know the genre very well. And I guess I'm sort of giving it a break because of that. And I'm happy that people who are younger than me are excited for a horror film. But it's just like, usually I want the horror movie to not be, that all the kids are into, to be so weird. My older brain can't understand it. What? All the things. And like, that would be wonderful. I would love that, actually, to be honest with you. But instead, it's like, oh, it's just not interesting. Okay. And like, that is kind of a letdown, I think, for anyone who's into this. But if you're not, and this is, I'm assuming, captured the game well, I think then it should sort of work for you. You should be fine as long as you don't know much about horror. If you do, this movie's not good. The YouTube cameos didn't bother me. I've seen everyone get upset about that. To be honest, it's the same as like seeing, the guy who played Ant-Man on SNL be in the first Ant-Man, or like various creator cameos and stuff like that, because they were people who supposedly, to my limited understanding, helped make Five Nights at Freddy's successful. And it's like, that sort of makes sense to me. It didn't seem like random cameo people like to me. But I don't fully know the online world of this video game and stuff, so I don't really want to, maybe one of them wasn't supposed to be there or something, but to me, they seem fine. They actually know how to have charisma on camera, so that it wasn't an awkward cameo or anything like that. But I don't see why people are annoyed by it. But it's like, I don't know, also thing they're not into, so blah blah, I get it. But I am excited for the 12-year-old who sees this film and goes, holy shit, I need to see more of that. And that's what this is what Goosebumps did for my generation. It's what Are You Afraid of the Dark did. It's like every generation has their like transition point. And I think that's probably why horror is a constant, and like other genres aren't smart enough to do that every now and then. And I think this is an off-ramp into that, and it's decent at it. I think a lot, it depends on like what is that horror movie that makes you finally delve into the genre for real. Is it like whatever movie was big when you were in middle school, or your friends are into, or you just like, I don't know, I always heard Night of the Living Dead was cool and you just saw it. But a lot of times it's like stuff like this. Like when I was a kid, Scream was really big, the first Scream, and now this is really big, and that's sort of fine. It's just not, it's probably one of the least interesting films I've seen this year. It's fine direction-wise. It doesn't really betray its uninteresting blandness, so like it's good at maintaining a tone that is like, boringly maintainable. But I'm happy that people are seeing this and going like, oh cool, or ooh, that's scary, or like, or have some sort of context for art. I'm happy about that. It's not the worst movie ever. It's just kind of dull. And as a horror movie, it's kind of like just a bunch of blah. And that's, I guess, what you need it to be. I feel like there could be cooler sequels. I like seeing Josh Hutcherson. I like more seeing Matthew Lillard. We should see Matthew Lillard more often, but those are the kind of two standouts, particularly Matthew Lillard. But I just wish they found a director who was interesting and odd, and like, I think the script isn't great. I know people are like, oh, it's just a bunch of lore, I guess. I don't know. It felt like sort of a movie, but just like one that wasn't as well directed as it could have been. And I think you need someone who was really going to play with the premise. I still kind of think that like these publishers of video games being so involved with the movies versions does not make for great movies usually. So I know that like the creator of the Five Nights at Freddy's helped write the screenplay and stuff. They always feel like too close, and they do a lot of references, and like I get that's probably the only way you can get the rights, but it makes for sort of kind of boring movies. So I hope they are more interesting, pick a weirder director or something for the other films that will inevitably be greenlit, or probably already have by the time this comes out, or by the time you're watching this. I'm happy for what it will do for a lot of people and get them into this genre and have fun with that. That I'm great about. I really like that. Everything else is this as a movie, or whether I would watch it again or really think about it much other than making this review, Like, it's just not good in any of those ways. But if you're, don't know much about horror and, you're super into this thing, I'd say see it. You probably will like it okay, and hopefully you find better stuff after it. Dawn of the Dead, the original, feels like a better place to start, honestly. But I'm happy for all those people getting into this thing, but they're younger than me. They need a gateway horror. They need that way to get into the genre, to understand the parameters of it, to understand people getting stabbed and how it all works. And I'm happy for all of those people who are seeing it, but I am not one of those people. I'm one of those people who didn't play the video game, and as someone who's not a part of kind of that huge group of people who understand that this game is great and therefore this movie is an interesting interpretation of it, since I am not one of them, I do not think it's good, and it isn't really that good. It's sort of a bland, blah movie that sort of, coastally presents itself off into the distance just for its target demographic and for no one else. Whether if you hit them directly, does that make it a good movie? I don't know, but from where I'm sitting, I didn't really see anything all that interesting or something that was worth the hype, or even something that I will even remember in a week when I'm not reminded of it. This is sort of just an uninteresting exercise in just finally trying to make the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Why we waited for so long for something like this is extremely disappointing, but I hope someone at one point can make a more interesting sequel and play around with it and be looser with it. But until then, we have this sort of bland-ass movie, but I'm happy that a lot of people are using this bland-ass movie to sort of get into the genre, but that doesn't mean exactly that I have to like it. I'm just happy it's getting more people into it, but it's not going to really help me get more into itself. So if you've seen Five Nights at Freddy's and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.